As you should know by now, last night we had a huge decision where a federal district judge vacated the ATF's frame and receiver rule. I did a quick announcement of it last night, but when I finally broke down this morning and read the judge's ruling, he slaughtered the ATF, and I think we should point it out because folks need to know what the legal ease is of this case, because what this judge said could possibly help on the pistol brace side as well. Before I jump into that, I want to thank the sponsor of the video, and that's the Sonoran Desert Institute. SDI is an accredited college. It's a distance learning institute where everything is mailed right to your door, where you can take individual classes or you can even earn your degree in classes such as ballistics or gunsmithing and the like. There's a ton of different options. You can check out their link down below. It's sdi.edu/GNG, and they even have financial aid available. Check them out, guys and gals, sdi.edu/GNG. Thanks to SDI for sponsoring this video. All right, guys, my name is Jared. This is Guns and Gadgets, and I bring you the Second Amendment news every single day, no matter what time it is, because news can break at any time. If you want to stay in the know, subscribe to this channel down below. Help me reach my goal of 700,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be awesome. And my birthday's coming up on the 25th of July, so maybe throw me some subscriptions to help get this channel moving again on YouTube. They seem to hate it lately. Every day I'll bring you the news, so I appreciate it. Also, hit that bell icon, turn on all notifications so you're notified when I do go live. All right, we'll start with the press release from Firearms Policy Coalition. That'll take a quick minute here, and then I'm going to show you some of the things the judge actually said. I want to show you parts of the actual ruling because it's magnificent. First to the presser. Last night, Firearms Policy Coalition and Firearms Policy Coalition Action Foundation announced that a federal judge had granted summary judgment for the plaintiffs in the Vanderstock v. Garland case, vacating ATF's frame or receiver rule and preventing the federal government from enforcing it. And I'll have a link to the opinion below. Federal District Court Judge Reed O'Connor said this: "This case presents the question of whether the federal government may lawfully regulate partially manufactured firearms components, related firearm products, and other tools and materials in keeping with the Gun Control Act of 1968. Because the court concludes that the government cannot regulate those items without violating federal law, the court holds that the government's recently enacted final rule is unlawful agency action taken in excess of the ATF's statutory jurisdiction. On this basis, the court vacates the final rule." Now, Cody Wisniewski, who is FPCAF's senior attorney for constitutional litigation and FPC's counsel in this case, said, "We are thrilled to see the court agree that ATF's frame and receiver rule exceeds the agency's congressionally limited authority. With this decision, the court has properly struck down ATF's rule and ensured that it cannot enforce that which it never had the authority to publish in the first place." Richard Thompson, who is FPC's Vice President of Communications, said, "This is a monumental victory against the tyrannical ATF. Firearms Policy Coalition and FPC Law have argued that this rogue agency has unlawfully attacked gun owners in this latest round of rulemaking, and we are grateful to see the court agree. We will not stop, however, with this latest victory. FPC and FPC Law will continue to bring these cases to put a stop to the immoral and unconstitutional actions of the disarmament regime." Now, I always say support those who support you. If you would like to join or donate to Firearms Policy Coalition, there's a link in the description of every one of my videos. I'll also put it in the pinned comment. Support those who support you. Now, let's get into some of the things that the judge said that this morning made me smile and enjoy my blackout coffee that much more. The court begins with the plaintiff's shared claim that in attempting to regulate products that are not yet a frame or receiver and therefore not a firearm for purposes of the Gun Control Act, the ATF has acted in excess of its statutory jurisdiction. As they argued at the preliminary injunction stage, plaintiffs maintain that the final rule exceeds ATF's statutory authority in two primary ways. First, they argue that the final rule expands ATF's authority over parts that may be readily converted into frames or receivers when Congress limited ATF's authority to frames or receivers as such. Second, they argue that the final rule unlawfully treats component parts of a weapon in the aggregate, i.e. a weapon parts kit, as the equivalent of a firearm. then the court agrees with the plaintiffs. As this court previously concluded, ATF has no general authority to regulate weapon parts. When Congress enacted the GCA, it replaced the Federal Firearms Act that authorized regulation of, quote, any part or parts of a firearm. In proposing the new regulation, defendants even acknowledged as much. Instead, under the Gun Control Act, the only firearm parts that fall under ATF's purview are, quote, the frame or receiver of any such weapon, end quote, that Congress defined as a firearm. But the final rule goes further by regulating weapon parts kits, that is, aggregations of weapon parts, that are designed to or may readily be completed, assembled, restored, or otherwise converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. In sum, the Gun Control Act's precise wording demands precise application. Congress could have described a firearm as any combination of parts that would produce a weapon that could fire a projectile. It used that language elsewhere in the definition. Congress could have described a firearm as any part designed to be part of a weapon. It used that language too. Congress could have described a firearm as a set of parts that may readily be assembled into a weapon, as it did for destructive device. Congress could have written all those things, and the very definition of firearm demonstrates that Congress knew the words that would accomplish those ends. But Congress did not regulate firearm parts as such, let alone aggregations of parts that are designed to or may readily be completed, assembled, restored, or otherwise converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. Accordingly, the final rule's attempt to regulate weapon parts kits lacks statutory support. Predictably, the defendants disagree with the court's interpretation of how the regulation operates and argue that the final rule's amended definition treats a component as a frame or receiver only when ATF has determined that the component is a frame or receiver. Again, the plain reading of the final rule's text belies this objection. A part that has yet to be completed or converted to function as a frame or receiver is not a frame or receiver. ATF's declaration that a component is a frame or receiver does not make it so, if at the time of the evaluation, the component does not yet accord with the ordinary public meaning of those terms. Thus, the court's prior acknowledgement that an incomplete receiver may still be a receiver within the meaning of the statute, depending on the degree of completeness, is not a contradiction. To be a receiver within the meaning of the statute requires that the particular component possesses all of the attributes of a receiver as commonly understood. Example, the component must provide housing for the hammer, bolt or breech block, and firing mechanism, and which is usually threaded at its forward position to receive the barrel, at the point of the evaluation, not readily in the near term. Because the final rule purports to regulate both firearm components that are not yet a frame or receiver, and aggregations of weapon parts kits not otherwise subject to its statutory authority, the court holds that the ATF has acted in excess of its statutory jurisdiction by promulgating it. Vacatur is appropriate given the court's conclusion that the ATF has exceeded its statutory authority. An illegitimate agency action is void and therefore cannot be remanded as there is nothing for the agency to justify. Defendants tacitly acknowledge this, noting that if vacatur is authorized under the APA, it is not warranted here in the event that plaintiffs succeed on the merits of any procedural claim, because the agency can likely correct any such error on remand. Moreover, vacating the unlawful assertion of the agency's authority would be minimally disruptive because vacatur simply establishes the status quo that existed for decades prior to the agency's issuance of the final rule last year. And again, the ruling in conclusion. In sum, the court grants the original plaintiff's unopposed motion for leave to provide supplemental authority, and the court denies JSD Supply's proposed motion for injunction as prematurely filed. The court grants intervener plaintiffs JSD Supplies and Polymer 80's motions to intervene. Further, for the reasons discussed, the court grants plaintiffs and intervener plaintiffs' motions for summary judgment and denies the defendant's cross motion and vacates the final rule. Separate final judgment shall issue as to the appropriate parties and claims. As discussed, Polymer 80 may move for summary judgment on its unique claims to the extent those remaining claims are not mooted by this decision. So ordered yesterday, the 30th day of June, 2023, by U.S. District Court Judge Reed O'Connor. So I'll have this decision down below. Judge O'Connor decimates the ATF. Like, you should actually read this ruling. It's Saturday. Have a cup of whatever, a glass of whatever, sit down and enjoy reading this. It'll be linked down below. Again, support those who support you. If you want to join or support Firearms Policy Coalition, link is in the description of the video, as well as in the pinned comment. And thank you for your time. Please help this channel by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it, which gets this information through the anti-gun YouTube algorithm. And also turn that bell notification on so that you'll be notified of when I put out new videos or go live. Thank you for your support. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.